Shadows crawl and nightmares call. Brace yourselves, one and all. It's the Scare Factor Podcast, Season 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Scare Factor Podcast, the #1 haunt podcast on the internet, according to my mother. My name is Bryan of Team Skelegore in Central New York. Joining me, as usual, Taylor of Team Bradypack, somewhere in the Midwest. Taylor, how's it going?
It's really hot. It sucks, but I'm here.
Hot? How hot is it?
It's like Satan's balls.
But Also joining me, as usual, Vince of Team Skulleton Crew in Atlanta, Georgia. Vince, how are you? I almost forgot where you were from.
I am doing well. I sometimes forget where I'm from, too.
I sometimes forget my name, like when I'm shooting the intro to a video at a haunt.
So many other things to worry about then, right?
That's right. So how's your day been? How's everybody's week been?
Busy.
Well, yeah, it's been a slow start. It was just us teachers at school today.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty good day at school, to be honest.
We were able to get a few things done today.
It's amazing,
Amazing
right?
how that works. Yeah.
Yeah. So my day has been a little busy. I was going to make a salad for lunch, and so I went to the kitchen and I took the lettuce out that I had bought at Costco 3 days ago, and I opened the package, and what do you know? The lettuce is moldy. So no salad for me. I had to drive the 15 minutes over to Costco to return the lettuce, and I got new lettuce. I'm hoping that the new lettuce is not moldy by tomorrow afternoon when I try to make a salad again. But we'll see.
The question
we'll
is,
find out.
Have you opened the package yet?
I have not opened the package yet.
Inspect immediately.
Well, like it's not like a Ziploc package. So like once I open it, I want to be able to take one out so that way I can like close the bag up, because like it's really full right now. But once I take, one of the heads of lettuce out, or it's romaine, so it's one of the hearts. Once I take one of those out, like then I'll have room to like, roll the bag up and like put a clip on it. But the lettuce I get from Wegmans, that's like a Ziploc style, and I could just like open that and see that everything is okay and close it back up without taking one out. But these ones, like I have to cut the bag to open it. So we'll find out tomorrow.
So right now it's Schrodinger's lettuce, right?
That is correct. Yes. The lettuce is both alive and dead simultaneously, and we won't know until we observe it. Which in all fairness, that's not actually how Schrodinger's cat works. Schrodinger's cat there's a lot of nuance to that. It was a thought experiment. It was more a way to explain how quantum physics works and how quantum particles can exist in a superposition until they collapse down on one state or another. It's a whole thing. This isn't a science podcast. I almost said this isn't a podcast. It absolutely is. Hi, I'm Bryan. Welcome to the Bryan Show. You don't want that, and I don't want that. Nobody wants that, believe me. So this is a haunt podcast, in case you didn't know. What are we talking about today, guys?
When to bring your kids with you.
Children
as
and
a parent.
haunts.
So I'm really conflicted by this, because as a parent, how dare you tell me how to parent my children? But also as a haunt goer, I'll bring my kids when I damn well feel like it.
There should be...
This should be fun.
There should be some wisdom with this, right?
There should. I'll put it to you this way. For parents that are listening, at least one of us has kids. It's me. I don't know if that like quells your worries at all. It shouldn't.
That's a bizarre fact there, but
it is.
It's true. It's true. The only kids I have are the ones that I see every day.
Yeah, I feel like Vince probably has more experience with, dealing with kids than I do, because like really I only have the one. I mean, I work in a school, like I deal with like, elementary age kids for a few hours a day, but like I haven't done that for a long time, right? Like Vince has been a teacher probably longer than I've been alive. Is that accurate?
How old are you again?
I am 36.
Okay, not longer than you've been alive, but
almost.
Almost.
Either way, we're talking about like, how how early is too early to bring your kids, right? The alternative title to this episode is How Young is Too Young to Get Scared? And we're going to start this off with the assumption that your child is coming to you saying that they want to go to a haunted house. Because if your child is not coming to you saying, like, Mom, I want to go see this haunted house, like, why would you take them to a scary place? That's a whole other discussion.
Right.
So we're going into this with the assumption that your child wants to go to a haunted house. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not going to take you to, the biggest, baddest, scariest haunt in the state. You probably want to find one that's maybe a little less scary, maybe a good stepping stone. So how would you find that? I mean, a good starting place would be thescarefactor.com. Totally a sponsor.
Can't go wrong.
That's right. You can't. But then raises the question, like, what would you be looking for, right? So some things you want to be looking at as you look at haunts in your area. Pull up the haunt websites. That's going to be my first piece of advice is you want to look through their websites, look at the pictures, look at videos they've shared, read what they say in their frequently asked question sections. And every single haunt has the same thing as their answer to can I bring my kids? And they always say, you know your child the best. They also say that they are the scariest haunt this side of the Mississippi. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think both of those things can be true at the same time. So the question is, like, how true is any of that, right? Like, how do you find out?
Well, I mean, you got to consider how much exposure to scary things has your kid had in the past. Is this their first venture, or have you been to the Monster Plantation at Six Flags, and have you done all of these other kind of kid-friendly scares, and so you know that they have some tolerance for some scares.
Vince, for the record, I feel like Monster Plantation at Six Flags might be a Georgia-specific thing.
It probably is. And actually, is it still a fixture at Six Flags over Georgia? I haven't been in a few years, but that was, a friendly little dark ride.
Yeah. I think the Six Flags haunts, they've all kind of fallen in line with branding. It's all Six Flags Fright Fest now, which, I mean, on one hand, all right, yeah, standardize it across the whole company, but on the other, like, there's no personality between them. What say you, Taylor? How true is any of that stuff, and how do you find out?
It's just as simple as doing your research. You could call the haunted house, try to figure out what exactly their gauge is for their scare level. But also, like, when knowing your child, like, whether you've been to other haunted houses, like, if this is their first time, or if you've been to others, what about, like, scary movies? I mean, that's probably a good way to gauge your child on their scare level, is probably just, like, horror movies.
Okay, so step one is set your child down and watch The Human Centipede with them. Check.
Well, I mean, it's also like talking to your child. Like, tell them it's not real. It's all fake. But if they can't handle a scary movie in their own home, they're not going to be able to handle an actor come up to them.
That's true. Yeah, and I'll say this as a parent, like, my daughter has been able to watch scary movies with me for, I don't know, at least a few years. She still kind of gets freaked out when we go to haunts. I'm turning her into a little reviewer these days. I'm making her look at haunts more critically and more objectively, and, like, really, start to pull apart what's going on in the scene as it's happening. Because, like, that's what we're doing when we go to a haunt. We're stood in a scene and we're kind of pulling apart, like, okay, did you buy all of these props off the shelf? Did you make them? Where are those masks and makeup coming from? Is that a kit that I can buy at Spirit, or is that fully custom? And you're pulling apart every little aspect as a reviewer. So, and I'm teaching her how to do that. And on one hand, I'm instilling this appreciation of haunts into her, and on the other, I'm kind of ruining the magic of haunts. So, like, the magic's already been ruined for me. I've already seen behind the curtain. I already saw the man behind the curtain that I should pay no mind to. Yeah, another thing you could do too is you could read the reviews that we at the Scare Factor are writing. There's a good chance that at least one or a few of the haunts in your area will have a review from at least a pretty recent year written by one of us. So, go and read that. Read our section about Scare Factor. How scary is it? How scary do we think it is? Because if we're saying like, this is really scary, if we're saying it's a 9.5, it's a 9, somewhere up there, maybe don't bring your kids. But, maybe your kid is totally fearless. On the other hand, when we're looking at like family-friendly haunts, chances are that scare factor is going to be somewhere down around like a 7 to a 7.5. It might even be a little bit lower because like family-friendly haunts are just not going to be that, they're not going to be on such a high level when it comes to the scares, even though some of them will think that they are. Quick rule of thumb, if you're hosting a birthday party for an 8-year-old at your haunt, you're probably not the scariest show around. You could also watch our videos. We make lots of videos. Watch them. Please watch us. Please notice us. Give us traffic. Please engage with us.
We know that some haunts do special nights where they'll do a kid-friendly show. They'll do a lights-on walkthrough, low-level scares, etc. And if we know something like that's going on at a haunt, we try to note that it's an option of things that people can do at this haunt. And for your child's first outing, especially if they're younger, that might be a good option to take.
Yeah.
Are they comfortable walking through these creepy scenes without somebody jumping out at them?
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of gauge like if they're ready for actors or not. And something that I've found in places that do those kind of lights on, no actor sort of experiences, what I found is that those usually run during the day in haunt season, right? So instead of doing like a special night of like, bring your kids on this night, what they're doing is they're saying, hey, for a steeply discounted price, you can come in, bring your kids, and we'll have our show lighting on, but there's no actors, so like you could bring your kids or maybe they do a lights on walkthrough, that sort of thing, but what I found, it's mostly during the day just because like it allows them to get both the families who want to bring their kids and don't want the actor experience. And then later they get the people who are coming for those higher energy scares that do want, the scariest show that they can get there.
Right.
So, that is something to consider. Look on the haunt's website to see if that's something they offer. Because I'm not saying that most of them do, but I'm saying like a pretty decent number of them might. I've come across it at least a handful of times. Another way that you want to start thinking about this is you want to be looking on the website and do they specifically say that they're family friendly? And so family friendly haunts, I think as far as we're concerned when it comes to our reviews, we find that family-friendly haunts tend to be on the lower end of intensity when it comes to scares. And I think that those are really good introduction for kids who are going to their first real haunt, right? A haunt with like actors and like, really like horror-themed scenes, I guess is the way to phrase that. Not necessarily like, your kid's middle school is putting on a haunted house in the gym. That might be an okay stepping stone for them. Depends on your kid and it depends on, the production quality of that. But, generally speaking, a family-friendly haunt that is dedicated to doing this, and this is kind of what they think about most of the year, that's probably where you want to be starting. And if you're not starting there, like it's going to be an early step for your child, probably. I don't know. What do you guys think? What's a family-friendly haunt in your opinion?
Depending on the age, most kids would pretty much just be like the hay rides, like a haunted maze, maybe. Something you probably have to be with your parent anyway to walk through or to be a part of. At least if it's age appropriate.
Well, I mean, not every hayride is going to be family-friendly either.
That's true.
Some of them are.
Yeah, but that kind of goes back into just doing your research. But I feel like, I don't know about other places, but here, most of the middle schools will put on their own, like, haunted attraction in the gym, of course. So, I mean, that's something that...
I mean, where else are you going to do it?
Right. So that could be the first stepping stone, especially if your kid, you may not know your kid's scare level. So probably starting with something more simple, something that's not going to actually be too terrifying might be a good place to start.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking with like a family-friendly haunt is like it's probably like I said, it's going to be on the lower end of intensity when it comes to scares. So it's probably going to be a really good place to start. What do you think, Vince? Would you agree with all that?
I would. I would say if you live in a suburban neighborhood, check and see if somebody in your neighborhood is setting up a yard haunt. They like to do that and have walkthroughs sometimes. That may be especially geared toward younger kids, entertain the kids of the neighborhood. So your child could go with a friend.
They could, yeah. And I think that's a good one. It's they can do that while they're out trick or treating. That'd be a lot of fun for them. It's usually a lot of fun for the parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, if you're interested in like getting involved in a haunt, that's probably a good place to start. If you see somebody in your neighborhood is doing a yard haunt, go up and ask them like, hey, would you guys want some help next year? I'd love to help you out in any way I can. Maybe they need somebody to help build stuff. Maybe they need some actors. Maybe they need somebody to paint things. Like, go ask if you're interested, because these home haunters will take all the help they can get, believe me. A lot of haunts that, even if they're not like, all the way on the family-friendly side of things, maybe they kind of exist somewhere in that middle ground. A lot of haunts offer a glow stick sort of option, and I call it the glow stick option. Sometimes it's like a little LED candle. It might be a glow stick that you wear. A lot of haunts offer this where it's like you pay an upcharge and you get this little light, and what it does is it scares the monsters away. It's not going to completely eliminate all the scares, but it gives you a low scare experience. And this allows your group to get an experience where you may still encounter actors, but they're not jumping out doing big high energy scares. They're more talking to you, and maybe in a creepy way or whatever, but they're not like doing their full on scare. You're still going to encounter like animatronics that are going to like do their thing, because obviously those don't know the difference, but it is going to be a much lower scare sort of experience, and that might be something you want to look at. The thing you need to just pay attention to is there are haunts where you get a glow stick and it's an enhanced experience, right? So it's, instead of just your regular like walk through and we jump out and we do our regular scares, wearing a glow stick means we can touch you, we can do more things. You just be aware that is a thing at some haunts. So it doesn't always mean they're like, oh, you do a glow stick, I'll wear the glow stick, and then all of a sudden you're getting dragged into the pits of hell because like, hey, listen, you were wearing the red glow stick necklace. I don't know what to tell you.
That's right. Know what your lighting signifies.
That's correct. And like, you're going to find that information on the haunt's website as well. They're going to spell that out for you. They're going to tell you what the deal is with those. But just be aware. A glow stick doesn't always mean the same thing. So what do you do when you get to a haunt or when you realize like, well, this isn't really kid friendly, this isn't family friendly? Like, how do you pivot?
Well, you've got to ask questions before you go purchasing tickets, because most haunts are going to say no refunds. So
My question is more, you roll up to the haunt and you realize, like, we don't do a low scare sort of thing. I mean, you should have done your research. You should have looked on the website. You should have known this already. But, like, let's say you didn't know.
So have we purchased tickets or not?
No, let's say you're going to buy them at the box office. You're just going to pay cash for them on site. What's your backup plan there? Like, how do you then pivot into a fun night out at a haunted house for the whole family? But, the place you're at is not really family friendly. I mean, the obvious answer to me is you find another place and you go to it. But like, what are your options here is the question.
Well, I mean, you could always find another one, or you could go to a pumpkin patch. Maybe even think about just creating your own haunted house, like at home, especially one that's like tailored to your child's scare level.
I mean, you could, but I mean, this is kind of like, we're at the haunt now. What do we do now?
I think I would maybe you're not buying tickets to go and walk through the haunt if you're deciding that's too intense for your child, but maybe you at least get a couple of pictures with one of the queue line actors who's roaming around the grounds. And let your child say, "Oh, that was okay. I had my picture made with this actor, this character, and that was fine." You might take your kid in to walk around in the gift shop and look around since you're already there.
Could emphasize that the frights are intended to be fun. Like, yeah, like it's scary, but it's also meant to be just really fun and that they're not real.
Yeah, that doesn't jive with like a young kid's idea of fun, though. Um, my idea here is maybe you do some of the add-on entertainment, right? Maybe there's an escape room you can do that's a little creepy. Maybe there's games you can play on their midway. Maybe there's things you can do that aren't walking through the full attraction. And truth be told, you do kind of have one more option here. And your option is you buy tickets to walk through the haunt. And I got to tell you, every haunt that I've ever been to that's operating above board has a way out, right? If you decide it's too scary for you, there are clearly marked exits. You can take them. I mean, it's not an ideal situation, but like, you know, if your kid kind of like jives with all this other stuff and they're having fun with the queue actors and they're, you know, they enjoyed the escape room, they liked playing the games, they like all the kind of creepy vibe stuff that's going on, like go into the haunt. Maybe they'll make it through, maybe they won't, but like you have an escape plan if they don't. You know, and I'm not saying like bring your toddler through you know, a scary haunted house, but like, you know, maybe you got a 10-year-old. You know, this might not be a bad way to gauge where they're at. Might be a little traumatizing for them too.
Yeah, but if you've already done all the games outside of the haunt and they seem really fine with it, like at that point you're 90% sure they're gonna be okay with it.
I don't know. I don't know. You've not met my daughter. My daughter will do the escape rooms, do all the stuff, and interact with the actors, and like, you know, she'll talk to the queue actors and do all the stuff, and then when it's time to go into the haunt, it's Dad, I'm scared. Will you hold my hand?
Oh. But I mean, you won't know until you try. But obviously there are exits, so even when that try turns
Right.
into more of a fail, hey, you can get out and you can go do something else now.
Yeah. You know, you tried. I mean, you're not getting that money back, but you tried. Try again next year, I guess. You know, something else to consider here is like pretty much any haunt that you're going to be bringing your child to is going to be a haunt where the actors don't touch you. And something that I think a lot of people need to hear is that no touch means no touch, going both ways. The actors won't touch you, and you should not touch them. Now, that being said, every year I get told this, and I go, what if I ask really nicely? Will they touch me then? And I'm still told no. I mean, you can't even ask nicely and get touched. You know, I just, listen, what is this world coming to? So there's a note in here that says, consider the possible health risk. And I'm just really curious. Like, one, who put this in? I'm guessing it was Vince.
No.
But like, Vince, what do you
Actually,
mean by health risk?
It actually was not. That was Taylor.
It was Taylor. Taylor, what do you mean by possible health risk?
Well, okay. Like strobe lights. Like this is again like do your research. Like strobe lights. Does your child have light sensitivity? Are they going to stroke? There's fog machines. Do they suffer with asthma? Like you want to be prepared on some of the other aspects of a haunt besides the scare. Like you want to know if your kid is going to have an asthma attack because there's too much fog.
That's true. I'm going to say this. It is not objectively 100% true all of the time, but it's a good rule of thumb to go by. Assume that there will be fog and strobe lights. If your child is sensitive to either of those, maybe your kid's got asthma, maybe your kid's got epilepsy, maybe don't take your kid to one of these places because like a good rule of thumb is that like both of those things will be present.
Yeah. There's also the physical portion of it. So maybe if you've looked at some of the reviews or something like that, maybe the guests, like often the guests are known to become really unruly. Like, is it going to be like a level-headed scenario for your child to be around people who are getting like aggressive with one another.
You're talking about other attendees or?
Yeah, like other attendees.
Okay.
I mean, like, yeah, you don't want your kid having a panic attack.
So there are those health risks. I mean, besides like them getting scared, I don't think they're gonna, because most times when kids get scared, you're gonna pull them out anyway. So, but there's other things, So we gotta look out for the young bloods.
I would lump with that tendencies toward disorientation. Does your kid get car sick super easily? Just thinking of disorientation with a vortex tunnel or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Does your kid throw up when they get dizzy? That would be something that you would want to know ahead of time. Because, like, not every haunt is going to have a vortex tunnel. In fact, I don't even find that most of them do. But, like, know what your kid's going to do if they get dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can always call the place, too. Like, you can call the haunt and, like, hey, I'm thinking about bringing my child up. I'm thinking about bringing my kid up there tonight. I was just wondering, do you have any of these things in use at your haunt? Do you have a vortex tunnel that you use? Do you use fog machines? Do you have strobe lights? Do you have these things that, like, could be a problem? I mean, a lot of times they're going to be like, yes, we use strobe lights, we use fog machines, we use this, we use that. The only one where it's like it's really actually worth asking is, do you have any vortex tunnels? If they say yes, ask them, are there go-arounds for those? And a lot of times they say yes. A lot of times what you'll find is for things like vortex tunnels and claustrophobia sort of sections. And by that, I mean like the airbags that inflate. And there are sections, like I went to a haunt where you had to crawl through a pretty tight little section. It was not far. It was maybe like 15 feet or something. But man, it felt like 100 feet. I'm not claustrophobic at all, but I felt the walls closing in on that one. That was not a good time. Part of that is I have carpal tunnel, and so like when you crawl on your hands and feet, you have to like put your hands into that sort of push-up position, so your wrist is bent at a 90-degree angle, and that was extremely painful for me. So that's something that like you just want to know about ahead of time, right? Are there things that can everybody in your group physically do all of the stuff in the haunt? Scares aside, like, is this going to cause physical pain? Is this going to, trigger anything that would be unideal? Epilepsy, asthma attack, things like that. Just think about the physics of the scenario itself. That's something to consider. If your kid is wanting to go because they're saying like, oh, well, my friends are all going and they've all been before, call those kids' parents, ask them like, hey, what's the deal with this place? How scary is it? Like, what's the deal? My little Timmy gets scared watching Teletubbies because let's be real, who doesn't? Those things are creepy as shit. But like, if your kid gets freaked out watching something that's, just not really super scary, maybe this isn't something you want to like send them to with their friends. Keep in mind, kids are mean to each other, right? Kids can be real assholes to each other. So, if one kid gets really freaked out, consider just the aftermath of what could happen there, right? It might be nothing. It might be the start of like their friends constantly picking on them about it. So, just things to consider.
And I mean, the other thing to consider, that's like something we always hear about, the nature of a haunted house is to provide shocks and scares to get your adrenaline going, right? So, it seems like you always hear about parents who, post a follow-up on the haunt social media that an actor scared my child. Understand the nature of a haunted house. I don't think any of the actors are probably going to go out of their way to terrify a 6 or an 8-year-old, but it's kind of the nature of the business.
At the same time, they are fair game. If they're not wearing the low scare necklace, then they're fair game when it comes to scares and all that. They're as far as those actors are concerned, they're also a paying customer. Now that being said, like, good actors are going to use discretion, and, they see a kid coming through and they're screaming and they're crying because they're obviously very scared. Like, hey, if you're an actor and you see that, maybe back off a little bit, huh? Don't keep getting in that kid's face, because that's a good way for a parent to lash out and like get in your face.
Well, I think for kids who want to go and do this, especially wanting to go and do this with their friends, it's a rite of passage. It's conquering a fear. I mean, to be able to walk out of that and say, nope, I faced those kind of fears and I came out and I was able to do this. That's a part of growing up and maturing.
It really is, yeah. Think back when, for the parents listening to this, think back to when you were a kid. What things did you do that were a rite of passage for you? You went riding bikes with your friends. You went out into the woods. You did the things your parents told you not to do. And, maybe you shouldn't have done some of those things. But, it's like you did things that at the time may have been a little scary. And, maybe your parents, maybe you're like my parents and you say like, oh, but those things built character for me. All right, well, going to a haunted house might actually build some character for your child. I do find it funny how, the sorts of parents who say like, it builds character. When I was a kid, we rode our bikes till dark and drank from the garden hose. And, these days they're the same people who are calling the police because there's teenagers outside existing.
Yeah.
Just like, look, it builds character for you kids. It's use some judgment, right? That's all we're saying. Because to go back to our very first point, you know your child best.
Yeah. And I get that sometimes it does really add character, and some people really love haunted houses. Like, I love haunted houses, but I don't get scared. But even when I have a kid, I'm probably going to be like, okay, does my kid typically get anxious or worried? Do they even enjoy, like, age-appropriate scary movies? And, like, what? It may be, like, something else. Is like, what kind of costumes do they normally gravitate towards for Halloween? Are they normally, like, a pretty princess, or are they, like, a Grim Reaper? Like, that's probably going to tell me the kids' scare level. Like, what they'll be able to take.
Yeah, that's very true. My daughter, a couple years ago, wanted to be a Teletubby for Halloween. And so we went to Spirit. So like she hemmed and hawed over this for like all season. And I kept asking her, what do you want to be for Halloween? And she's like, I don't know. And then like a week before Halloween, she comes to me and she goes, I want to be a Teletubby. And I'm like, are you serious? She's like, yeah, it's going to be great. Me and my friends, we're all going to do this. And I'm like, all right, let's go to Spirit and go get you a Teletubby costume. Mm-hmm. So we go to Spirit. We find one that's, relatively in her size. It's maybe a little big, but I'm like, it's fine. We get home. She puts the thing on, realizes, I hate this. I'm like, okay, all right, sure, no problem. So I turn around, same day, I take it back down to Spirit, and they're like, oh, sorry, no refunds, no returns. We're really close to the end of the season here. I'm like, I literally bought it today. And they're like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. So I get back home, and I tell her, and I go, guess what you're going to be for Halloween? She's like, what? And I go, a Teletubby. She's like, no, I don't. I'm like, I spent $50 on that costume. I can't return it. I can't get my money back. So guess what? You're going to be a Teletubby. Guess what you're going to be next year? A Teletubby. Guess what you're going to be the year after that? A Teletubby. Until you can afford to buy your own costume or you decide to make your own, you're going to be a Teletubby. Now, is this like the best model of parenting? No, absolutely not. Don't do this to your children. Do not follow in my footsteps. Let me tell you something. That little terror begged and pleaded with me for the better part of an hour. Dad, please, I want to be a Teletubby. Me and my friends, we're all going to be Teletubbies. It's going to be great. It's going to be so funny. And then she's like, no, I hate this. So this year, where were we? We were somewhere. She's like, oh, I know what I want to be for Halloween. I'm like, is it a Teletubby? She's like, no. And I'm like, you got money to buy your own costume? She goes, maybe. And I'm like, all right, well, you're going to wear that costume at least once. I did not spend $50 for you to not wear a damn costume.
Wait, she still hasn't been a Teletubby?
No, she still has not worn it.
Oh.
Nope. I did not spend $50 for her to not be a damn Teletubby.
I think a family picture would be ideal.
Oh, I have a picture. I will send one to you when we're done recording here today. She did not look happy. I will share the picture with you. She might actually be listening to this episode.
Don't hate us all.
Sweetie, I'm sorry. You're going to have to be a Teletubby this year. That's just how it's going to be.
Did she know what the Teletubbies were before she decided?
Yes. Yeah, she knew what the Teletubbies were. She knew. She was, I want to say she was like 12 at the time. She was like 12 or 13. And she was like, I want to be a Teletubby. And I'm like, all right, okay. I guess that's what we're doing. That's okay. Sure. Why not? Let's go get you a Teletubby costume. So, pro tip for parents out there, when your kid's like, oh, I really want to be this thing, make them try that costume on in the store and make them realize they hate it before you spend money on it. That's the takeaway from this episode. I know we were talking about like taking your kids to haunts, but like, yeah, the takeaway here is when your kid says they want to do something, like, I don't know, I guess there's a parallel there, right? Your kid is like really adamant about wanting to do something, like find a way to make them see they're probably not going to enjoy it first. And if they still think like, yes, I love this is what I want to do, okay, great, go all in. There is no turning back now. And this should not be construed as Bryan telling you to terrorize your children. That is a bad thing to do. Do not terrorize your children. If your child wants out of a haunted house, just, my God, just walk through the exit. I'll hold the door for you. I'm trying to fill time. Can you tell?
No, so to that I would add, if you do take them through for the first time and you do have to take an exit and leave, don't make it as though we're never going back to a haunted house again. I mean, some kids grow in steps.
We're going back every year until you can make it all the way through. And then after that, we're going to a scarier haunt. That's how that's going to work.
I've actually had to deal with that in reverse with my mom as a kid. She literally jumped on top of me to like shield me from the chainsaw guys.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, woman, get off of me. We're totally fine. She was like, we're never going back to this haunt. I was like, it's okay. You're okay. It's fine. And she actually still has not been back to that haunt.
It's all make-believe, Mom.
Yeah.
It's all make-believe, Mom.
But it is sad.
None of it's real.
Because I've seen those parents who are like, they're going through the exit or like they're leaving the haunt and the kids are crying and the parents are like, we're never doing a haunted house again, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you have to give them time.
It's frustrating, as a parent, because it's like you try to do fun things with your kids. You try to share something that you think is fun with your kids and they just are not having it. A great example of this is, but once every year I go to take my daughter hiking at a local park, and there's like hiking trails, and every year we try to go and we hike a trail, and she's pissing and moaning like halfway through. My feet hurt. I'm tired. I don't like this. And every year I say the same thing. I'm not taking you hiking with me anymore. That's a little different because she's going to complain no matter what. It does build character, damn it. It does. I feel like Calvin's dad. Anybody out there read Calvin and Hobbes?
Oh yeah.
I'm reminded of Calvin shoveling the driveway. All right. So do we have anything else to add here on when should you bring your kids to a haunted house? I think we covered everything. Talk to your kid. You know your child best. Watch Human Centipede with them before going to a haunt. If they can handle that, they can handle anything.
The starter
Human
movie
Centipede is...
Human Centipede is a piece of cinema. That is a masterpiece.
But it's so good.
It is such a good movie. Human Centipede 2, on the other hand, we're not going to talk about that one. I don't know if you guys watched the second one. It was awful.
I don't know that I watched the first one.
First one's amazing.
You only need to watch the first one.
Yeah, seriously.
I know the premise. That seems like enough.
Yeah. So the second one was just really awful. All right. That's about all the time we got for today. Well, we have plenty of time. That's just all the notes and all the talking points we have for today. You can follow all of us here on The Scare Factor on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Check out our website, thescarefactor.com, to read reviews, find haunts, and check out the newest section, Spooky Spots, where you'll find fun and spooky places to go all year round. This podcast is available wherever you're listening to it. I'm not going to list the places anymore. Hey, new outro, yay! The Scare Factor is now an affiliate of FrankenFuel energy drinks for weirdos like you. Yes, you. You can get 15% off your order today by going to frankenfuel.com/scarefactor or by clicking the affiliate link in the show's description. FrankenFuel. Wake the dead. Fuel the living. Thank you very much to Taylor of Team Bradypack. Vince of Team Skulleton Crew.
See you next time.
I've been Bryan of Team Skelegore. This has been the Scare Factor Podcast. Stay scary.